Sparky Coach Podcast, how to have your sharpest week as a business owner, episode 5, part 5. Welcome, Cam.
What's up, Crowy?
What's up? We're excited about a New South Wales whitewash tomorrow, maybe?
ah, Look, baby. Yeah, look. I'll be honest. I was off mic. I was not too confident. So I'll support that same thought process. I'm not overly confident. I think you guys are in a bit of a golden age with a extremely good team.
We are talking state of origin. If you are from Melbourne, this is rugby league, real football, you might say. Now, you follow all codes, whatever.
I
We're not
follow
here to
the
judge.
players.
We're here to talk about your sharpest week. And it's really interesting. And I think if you haven't caught, this is part 5, and we are sort of going on with the series. And it's so interesting because I feel like most of the time, until you're completely sort of, I mean, the goal is that you would have a choice in the business. The goal is that you would have a choice. Do you scale back? Do you scale up? Do you get someone in to replace you? Do you stay on? Like, what do you, the goal is not that, the goal is that you have a choice. I feel like what you want to do, you might not know yet. And if your foundations are set up correctly, if you're working and you're profitable and the team's happy and you've got great clients, like, you might not know the answer to the end result, but the fact is you want a choice. You want to have a choice. And we're getting to that point, but it's so much of the business, if you're not at that choice stage of business, chances are a lot of the week is rolling around you. And even if you are at that choice stage of business, a lot of the times, sometimes you can be making really good money, but if you're working 80 hours a week or you're golden handcuffed to a task or a certain business, it's going to be really difficult to do anything in life. So it's interesting to work out, like, when the business is operating in and around you, are you sharp? Are you having a sharp week, or are you having a blunt? That's kind of,
I thought of it straight. I was like, yeah, blunt has to be. Yeah.
it's like trying to cut something with a blunt something. You should got a blunt pair of pliers. Maybe I don't know. Maybe something happened to them. They blew up. Maybe your
Most
apprentice blew them
old.
up. Maybe whatever. It's so hard to cut anything properly, and it's so hard. You need to be sharp. But it's really interesting to talk about because what makes you have a sharp week, and how can you, if you have a good week, how can you repeat that sort of thing? And I think the big overarching concept for me is no one is coming to rescue you. So as a business owner, there's not going to be someone appearing at 7 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock in the afternoon and going like, "How'd you go today? Hey, here's your task list for today." Or at the end of the day, what would you rate yourself out of 10? How did you go? And this is why coaching is so fantastic, because you can sit outside the realm of someone's day and be like, "Hey, that was not a good day. You did not have a productive day." But to an element, a business owner, you got to be self-managed. Like, you have to have some element of, I'm going to rip and tear and get this thing done. And you got to keep yourself accountable. You've got to be like, am I working on the right task? Am I in the right spot? Am I leaving to go get 3 coffees a day? Am I starting every week out, like every day out, and coming back to the office and going around? Like, there's got to be an element of self-reflection and self-management, which I feel like you can't coach. So if you were in it getting coaching or whatever, you can't have a coach to keep you accountable to, like, having productive days. Like, to some extent, you've got to take some responsibility and just sort of own it and do it. But being self-managed is so unbelievably critical, and reflecting on, where am I excelling? Where am I not excelling? Where am I falling down? Where do I need to tie my boots back up and get back on the horse? That is such a critical part of running a business. Thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, ultimately, the business revolves around you for a period of time within it, within the business growth stages before you can start to get other people on board. So you're hypercritical to the actual day-to-day functioning, week-to-week functioning, month-to-month functioning. So obviously a bit of self-discipline involved. I think touching it back on the blunt axe versus the sharpest axe, how we're having our sharpest week. It's interesting. You could also liken it to getting up, going to the gym, and hitting the desk early, feeling fresh, feeling good, feeling got your things together, versus um, hitting the pub the night before till midnight and coming in to work hungover. You've grabbed a bakery special on the way through, maybe some Maccas or something like that, and you're not going to be very sharp. So it's sort of like the hungover performance versus, you know, hey, I'm ready, raring to go. And we've all done it. Like I'm not going to sit here and be like, I've never been hungover in my life at work. It's just you can actually physically, mentally, and I'm going to say almost visually, can go back to a time that's occurred. To the point now, like, you know, I got to a point in time, whereas if I knew we had like a Sunday function on, I just would block out the whole of Monday completely, as in like I'm not going to work that day, or I would block out the morning section of that day because I knew that you know, we're all entitled to have a bit of fun. But equally too, what's the point? Like I'm just going to be basically a person standing there, not having zero output, and basically just diving into some takeaway food to make myself feel better. So I sort of think you can liken it to that. And I think there's different stages of a business where you've got to go for extended periods of time and be really, really hyper focused and hyper sharp. Because the impact when you're not doing that is really catastrophic. Equally, though, there's times in business when you get to certain stages and you have certain people in certain positions, you can kick back a little bit and you can go for a morning surf and you can go for a morning run that's, you know, not at 4 a.m. in the morning. It might be now at 7 a.m. in the morning. You can live a little bit more of a, I guess, 9 to 5 lifestyle as such, job description, I suppose. So it's not to say that anything is right or wrong. I think it's just to get an understanding of when you, and this is where the self-management comes into it, if I'm going full circle here, it's being able to identify and understand where your time is best spent and where you're best put to use within your business.
Back to the hungover. I've been hungover once with kids, right? It's like I'm hyper calculated. If I have a few beers, I'll be having lots of waters in between it. But this one Christmas party we had, this is back in the Crow Electrical days. I was just got carried away with the boys. And I think when you mix drinks, right? Yeah. And mixing, and actually this is interesting. We're at this this pub in Kirrawee, and I'd lost my wallet at that point, like physically misplaced it, and I had my passport. Yeah. But I had my passport as identification. You need that with the Amex to sort of put the tab on, and so I gave them that, and someone actually working there stole my passport. Right, they took it, so that obviously I didn't eat, and I was like, "Holy crap!" And anyway, that was a story in itself. Going to get your passport after like 30 beers, and it's not there. I'm like, "Where is it?" I gave it to you. Anyway, long story short, I remember waking up the next morning in a not okay state, and Phoenix was really young at this point, maybe 3 or 4 months old, and you know that stage of kids where they're fully not sleeping, and we hadn't had any sleep, and I remember had to help Elodie get to the car, and on my hands and knees. And I couldn't even help her. I end up throwing up in the stormwater drain outside of our house on the driveway, like starfished on the driveway, throwing up into this stormwater drain, just going like, woe is me. Since that day, I've just been like, no, I cannot and will not operate like that. But we've all been that business owner, living in that fog, I think you would say. And you've got to know how to get the best out of yourself. And you might have touched on it then when you're exercising. And there's a point of like, I think I was listening to a Spark Your Interest podcast, and someone on there, I won't name them, but I could, but they say, they went in the office and they put on some weight. And I was like, when I went to the office, I actually put on 10 kilos. Like, cause you're not you're not exercising as much as you were. You're up and down ladders and picking up things and running up and down staircases and bits and pieces. Going into the office, into the full-time desk time, I remember you still sort of eating the same, which for me wasn't that fantastic. Just, you're eating on the rush a lot, you're eating muffins. I was drinking flat whites at that point, and just
volume too, larger meals,
straight to the hips, of course. And then and I remember just going, holy crap, like I'm not being. So at some point, the sharpest version of yourself, you have to consider obviously exercise. You have to consider eating. If you're just binging caramello koalas and lollies and then wondering why you're crashing into the afternoon, you've got to put 2 and 2 together at this point. Or if you're like, you got to reference the mornings you exercise versus the mornings you don't, I almost would guarantee that you'd be sharper with exercising well and eating well. And on top of that, if you're quoting at 11 or 12 o'clock at night, not only would those quotes be more than likely wrong or incorrect because they're not considered properly because you don't have that brain function at that point, you're probably tired the next day. So like, flowing holistically into how to have your sharpest week, like you've got to be sleeping well. And if you've got a kid that's not sleeping, I say that with a grain of salt, but you hear what I'm saying. You got to be looking after yourself, and you got to know your season. Now, you've also got to know your season, when to push hard and when to take your foot off the pedal. So at the moment in Sparky Coach, shout out to our platform. We've just built the sickest document on close a week. It is an absolute life, what do you call it? Like a life moment. I don't even know. Like it's
milestone moment.
Milestone. Yeah, it's been for me the result of 13 years running Crow Electrical. Did my apprenticeship before that, almost 5 years coaching. I feel like this is the pathway. We feel like we've nailed the pathway. It's been a lot of work to get to this point. I would say a lot of and putting in a lot of extra hours at certain points, building this and checking and what did I do and what happened and that. So I know the season of business we're in is we're pushing hard, and it's not going to be forever, but it has been to get a milestone moment like this document, like this workbook, which will pretty much show you everything you need to know about your business, which it'll guarantee a result. It might not be the result you want, but it'll guarantee a result. It'll show you if you're not making money, it's going to show you. If you are making money, it's going to show you where. So it's actually incredible to get to a point of like, yes, we're put in that point, and now it's sort of set the wheels in motion and put the skateboard down the hill. But as a business owner, you can't always have the choice to work 7 till 3 and go home. And we know that, but it's like, how do you know when to gauge and when to gauge back? Interesting thing. I knew this document was due before financial year, right? So to timestamp this, it is June 17th, and we've got 2 weeks out. So I was like, I knew exactly what I wanted to create. I needed time. So I went aside to Elodie and I was like, I need some time. When can I take? So we planned out a bit of I needed like 5 days, 10 days, 3 days. The timing's irrelevant really, but it's like we had an open discussion. It's like, this is what I need. I need not to be interrupted. My phone is going in the bin. I don't want to have to deal with any Bed Bath and Beyond, the lost in that world. Like, I'm done. I can't. I need that. I need to work on this thing. And I'm like, yeah, cool. Because you've got to get yourself that time as a partnership in my head. And it's like, so I know if that was happening every Sunday or every Saturday or every Friday night, yes, it's time to pull yourself back and be like, hey, you can't take that time every single week. I don't think so. I don't think you want to either as a business owner. But when it's time to put in, you've got to know, yes, I'm going to put in that certain point of working incredibly hard and incredibly smart. And I think the working hard part makes a lot of sense with the working smart part. If you're working hard just relentlessly just to stay on top, that's not okay. That's not working smart. Working smart is when you're working from that baseline of you're putting systems or processes in place to make the working hard part actually easier. So I say all that to say, you've got to know yourself. You've got to know when it's time to put in and when it's time to pull back. You've got to know how long can I actually physically put in for, which is you can only put in what you're putting out as well. So if you're what do you sort of, or you can only put out what you're putting in. If you're putting in good food, good diet, good exercise, good social time, good time with the kids, good time with the partner. If you're like looking after your life, your business life is going to be a lot easier. But if your business life is encroaching into all aspects of your life, it's time to sort of, and that's fine for a season, I feel. And if you are that certain personality type that just rips and tears and goes, that's also perfect. But what are you thinking as I'm sort of chatting and ranting?
So it's a rant. It's a summary of a lot of feelings that have been built up over time, probably. I think what we're looking at there is the business on time. The short and long of it is where your energy is being put into to develop the business. Now, I think a lot of comments we get from a lot of business owners is I'm really busy, and not disputing the fact that there's a lot of input of hours each day and each week and each month at all. But I think what we could probably dispute, and I think if you shine the light up in the mirror and looked at yourself as well, is I think you could definitely recognize potentially what the, I guess, rating of those hours is, what the input and effort of those hours is, and are they effective, and best spent time frame. Best spent hours within the business. And I think that's really important to recognize because I can be busy. Definitely, I could make anyone busy. Whether it's productive busy and efficient busy is a different story. So I think this is like where we sort of come around full circle a lot to where we've been talking about the sharpest week and understanding the use of your time, because you hear, I guess, all those self-help guys and girls, all those books that are out there and various mediums, I guess, that how they get put out there these days around how everyone has 24 hours in a day, everyone has the same amount of time, all those sorts of bits and pieces. And it's true. Like, it's
Have you seen that guy go break down his days into 6 hour slots? It's
no,
so funny. He's like, I start at 6. My first day starts at 6, goes to midday. Now I've just had one day. My second day goes from 12 to 6. Now I've had 2 days. I'm smashing you. And I'm just like, oh man, I'm so stressed. He literally like, it's literally like saying, I read one of the comments that said, it's like having a loaf of bread and cutting it into 10 pieces. I mean, I now have 10 loaves of bread. Like, this guy is just, but there's always those people going like, I get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and I do this and that. And by the time you've woken up already, it's like, whatever. Who cares?
Yeah, who cares? So I think there's that. It's true to a point that we all have the same amount of time, and we do. But I think the key here is looking at it is what is the best use of my time, and I think that's where I really want to push down the pathway here in this conversation is where is your best time spent every single week and every single day, and an element of that has to be spent on the business itself. So not just on the tools, not just on site, not just doing things for the sake of doing things. And I think it's really, really important because otherwise you just end up on that treadmill. You just keep going round and round and round. And I think you probably heard Crowy and I probably reference it a few times around, slow down to speed up. And Crowy has referenced it a little bit there within the Sparky Coach sort of, I guess, season we're in at the moment, is that there is an element of slowing down to speed up. And what that means is so slowing down and like looking at the bigger picture. And we have some things that need to be done, but if they didn't get done today, tomorrow, or the next day, it's going to be okay. And I think it's understanding and recognizing what those things are. If we reference it to the electrical world as a business owner, can Betty's job be shuffled around to another day to get you some more time tomorrow, for example? Or can Robbo's job be moved around on Friday to get you that time on Friday? And I think this is where we go back to what we touched on in last week's podcast, is around the communication side of things. A lot of these things I feel are our own doing because we're not proactive in having a conversation. And I'll reference you there, Crowy, because I know we talked about it the other day, is that, you just went and spoke to Elle, your wonderful wife, and just said, hey, this is what I need. If you don't give it to me, I will jump up and down like a 5-year-old.
I lay down the law.
No, but just went and asked and had the conversation. So it was a conversation, same as you'd be having with a client around, hey, this is what's happening, this is the situation, this is what I need. And so you can frame it however it needs to be framed, because you can apply that to a client. Hey, look, we're on a job currently. If we finish it, so if we stay there for an extra 2 days, we finish it and we never have to go back, which means we can move on to your job and finish it concurrently as well. Whereas if we come to you tomorrow, we're just going to cut an interchange between both of them. And I'm yet to meet, in the history of my time in the electrical industry, a client who is not happy with you being there for 4 days in a row and just getting the job done. They would much prefer you to come for one day, disappear, come for another day. They love having drop sheets down on their floor permanently and half the lights not working. Not. So understanding where your time needs to be in that particular week and moving things around, because more often than not, the task that you think is really, really important I'm going to go out on a limb here and say it's generally job related, because as electricians, we're trained electricians, trained to do the job. So our default setting internally is to do the job because we find it the easiest thing to do. Because it's what we're trained in, it's what we have our skill set in. I'm going to say most of us probably really enjoy it, in a sense of the reason we enjoy it is because we don't find it overly difficult, because we're well trained, we've been doing it for years, it's our skill set. So we have the ability to be like, I've got 5 quotes to send out and 5 invoices to do, or I could go do Dicko's job for $1,500. It's been sitting there for a while. He just said, whenever you get a chance, you can do it. And I always tell people that is the worst comment you can ever say to me, because whenever you want to do it, to me, means I will forget about it and get it done sometime in the next 6 to 12 months. But understanding that, hey, no, we don't need to go doing that job. I actually need to get those 5 invoices out for a number of reasons, because one of them should have been done the week before. I need the cash flow, and I need to capture the variations on those jobs. Insert reason here. The other reason I want to get those 5 jobs quoted and sent out is because 2 of them the client's been waiting on for a week, and 3 of them I know they're going to say yes to, which helps me for the jobs in the coming week. So it's understanding and identifying where that time is. But if I then move back to a little bit around the business on time, if you spend no time developing a system, refining a process, creating that refined template, shout out to Crowy and we have a lot of templates and a lot of examples and a lot of, hey, this is how we've done it in the past. So you can literally just download that script and adjust it accordingly, or throw it into ChatGPT and they can make it sound like a robot if that's the way you're inclined to speak. It doesn't really bother me. But
with long dappers.
But those little things will make the biggest difference to your business. And I'm not saying you need to dedicate a whole day a week. It can just be an hour or 2 to tick off a few things. Crowe mentioned the other day, if you do 1 to 2 things a week, that's 104 items a year. It has a massive impact on your business. So, Crowe, throw back over to you, because now I've caught the contagious sickness and illness that is ranting.
It was like, you've got to. It's so interesting to talk about, because I just keep coming back to that. Like, how do you reference if you're working smart or working hard, and how do you do both? So as a business owner, I think you got to look at working, if you're consistently doing stuff just to keep the business maintained. So thinking reactive phone calls. I'm thinking of someone just getting thrown out into the middle of the ocean and just treading water really fast. Like they're exerting a lot of energy and they're just maintaining afloat. There's no clear direction of where they're going to. So you can exert a lot of energy and be doing nothing or just maintaining. So flashing back to the early days of Crow Electrical, which wasn't even that early. It was like 5 years in. It was taking me 2 days to prepare invoices. 2 days. Can you think of the craziness of the mentality you've got to be in that thinks I'm the most important person, I have to prepare those invoices? Like, that's what, no one else can do it but me. Like, everything's got to be worded out and lowercase and this and that, and how are they going to know? And realistically, that was me controlling something, or just not taking the time to step back and be like, hey, that's not sustainable. What if you went away for a week? Now I've got 4 days next week to put this thing together. So your logic brain comes in and be like, hey, why don't you just get someone else to do that? And you sit with them for 2 days, show them how to do it. Sit with them for a week, sit with them for 2 weeks. Who cares? I just got back at 2 days every single week forever. You know what I mean? So it doesn't really, so if you're working hard and you're just sustaining, and what I mean by that is you're just like, I'm just staying on top of invoices. I haven't closed a month since, since 17 full moons ago. If you're like, I haven't got back to that person, I've still got these quotes to go, like, if you're just barely able to maintain, that's hard work. There's nothing wrong with hard work, but if all you're doing is maintaining a level of what should be normal, there's a problem with that. Where if you stepped outside, and I think one of the big things for me working on the business, so dedicating that on time, is be like, how can I make my 9 to 5 a bit better? How can I make my 7 till 3 a little bit better? And what is it missing? So for me, if I just went, I could have a beer this afternoon from 3 till 4 o'clock, or a coffee or a kombucha or whatever you're doing. Have a schnitzel. And I'm like, where am I struggling at the moment? Oh my gosh, it's taking me 2 days to send invoices. Okay, what do I need to do? I need to get someone else to at least prepare these. Okay, so what's that going to involve? I'm going to have to streamline my job notes system. Maybe I need to get a job management system. Maybe I need a template for job notes. Maybe everyone's got to start being a bit more diligent logging on. So if I can collate the right information, then someone else can populate it. I'm still a bit scared to get them to send it because what if it's wrong? What if it's a callback? What if it's a variation that needed to be adjusted? So I'll just check it before it gets sent. Okay, sweet. So now if I just train someone for 3 days or 2 days or send a couple of Loom videos or whatever, now I've just bought back my 2 days. Now I can just spend 90 minutes checking it and approving it and sending it. Now I can use that 2 days to work. I can now accomplish different tasks. I'm no longer maintaining. It's almost like reactive versus proactive maintenance. If you're consistently reacting to stay, like, think about a call out, whether it's a commercial call out or residential call out, and it's tripping power or something not working. Sometimes in business, you can just feel like that. I'm just reacting to what's in front of me just to keep it working. I'm just reacting just to keep it working. I've just got to, like, yeah, that's not working. I'll go fix it. I'll go fix that. And sometimes as a business owner, you're working hard. I'm everywhere. I'm all at once. I'm like a giant octopus with double the legs, right? Just doing my thing. But we want to be in that space where we're also doing proactive maintenance. So what could I put in place that helps me to not spend energy and time and effort in places where it doesn't need to? So the job notes, the job management system, the outsourcing of the invoicing, all that kind of stuff. And I think that's when the magic happens, when you work out, like, what's the actual bottleneck here? Am I the bottleneck, and where is it? And how can I go about fixing it? And on that too, and I want to reference this, I think I said this to you off air yesterday, is I remember, so coming home, exercising in the morning has been amazing for me. So come home, and usually, like, Jasper's up at that point, and I will be usually making a coffee, and I'm checking Instagram, and Jasper might be asking about his Lego, and I'm like, I'm so busy, and I've got like 7 till 8. You got to, make breakfast, make lunches, get the clothes ready for the boys, and just sort of like help that flow. What I was finding was, if I was sort of trying to do work at that point, or whether I was like half doing something and half checking Instagram, or half on socials, or half not, or whatever, I'd be really busy and quite frustrated. And I was like, holy crap, I'm just like this. I'm literally stabbing myself in the leg and then complaining I have a sore leg. So it got to a point where I'm like, I'm just going to put my phone, because nothing dramatic's going to happen between 7 and 8 for me. You reference your own time here, but my day starts at 9, and maybe 8:39, whatever. So nothing really dramatic can happen in an hour for me. So I was like, I put my phone down. So all of a sudden now, I'm making breakfast, making lunches. Jasper's got a question about Lego. Sweet, I'll go help him, because I'm focused. That's my sole job between 7 and 8, is to ensure the morning runs smooth so we can all get to work and school on time, right? So it's like, but when you try and do things, most of the time, but when 70% of the time it works every time. But when you're trying, and this is the thing with focus, right? In reference that, if you're trying to send invoices, or you're trying to prepare a quote, or you're trying to do insert task here, and your phone's going absolutely nuts, well, maybe you've just got to put it aside for 45 minutes while you complete that task. So the easiest way to get somewhere quickly is to focus and do one thing at a time. When you try and do 7 things open, with 7 tabs open, with your emails open, and this is interesting as well, like, I would say having an office helps everything, but not necessarily. The old company I used to work at, which shall not be named, there was this principle I called the LAWC principle there, the LAWC, that was lost at the water cooler. So many good and noble conversations took up so much time. Yeah, we're talking about good things. How do I make that better? What about that? What did you hear about that? What can we do here? And nothing ever eventuated. So you make a coffee, or get a drink of water, or make some food, whatever, if you're in an office, and you end up just like chatting for ages. And it's a great conversation, but realistically, I was meant to be doing something else and I did that. So how come I could even fit that conversation in? Why was I even talking to that person at that point? So just because you've got an office or you work from home or whatever, doesn't mean anything. You can work from wherever as long as you're focused. And when you're focused, it's incredible what you can get done. When your sole task is to do that sole task, so let's say you've got a quote and you are going to box out 90 minutes. Sweet, cool. If you made that your sole focus for 90 minutes, you would do it, you'd do it well, you'd be thorough, you'd be organized, you'd be neat, you'd be tidy, you'd be clean, you'd be executed, you'd be well oiled. That's what you want to do. So much of our pain, I feel, and that's the thing I was saying at the start of the pod, no one's coming to check on you. Like, you've got to manage yourself. So you can be as busy as you want between 7 and 5, right? And then you can come home and be like, oh, I've got all this work to do after hours. But it's like, if you just had a good 7 till 5, you wouldn't be going home with work. But the fact that no one's keeping you accountable to have an excellent 7 till 5 means you can roll into 5 to 8 and with your kids, with your partner, by yourself, like who cares what you're doing? And you're like, oh, I'm so stressed. Yeah, you're stressed because you weren't productive in the day. You're stressed because you didn't achieve what you should have achieved in the daytime. And this is why we always say, if you can picture yourself as an employee of your business, if you can just picture, I'm employed to do this role, so this is what I will do today. Picture yourself like the operations manager and the company just pays you a wage. It's so important because now you have a role, now you have a responsibility, now you have KPIs, now you have a performance plan. Like, now you have some structure to be like, this has to be implemented. And as a business owner, and it's similar to my Jasper story, you can be as busy as you want, as noble as you want, as like, you're just trying to do too many things at once. Like, just dial it back, do what you have to do. It actually shocks me the amount of people that don't have time in 7 till 5, but they can call 3 of their friends and complain about their staff members for hours. You know, you've all got those people that you call just to debrief and be like, that's like, if you're able, then there does come a time in business where you can do that, you know, but if you're able to do that, but you can't get the non-negotiables done, if you're able to post stories on Instagram, but not send your invoices or check your jobs, if you're able to scroll through social media, but not get the non-negotiables of your work done, that's a real issue. That's a self-management issue that needs to be confronted. And I just feel like too many of us are busy, but define it, write it out for me. And could you take that to your boss, right, and show them what you did in that day? And would you employ yourself? And it's so incredibly important if you can manage yourself, if you can start the day and be like, what, at the end of the day, when I look back, what is a good result? I'll achieve dirt, and dirt. Sweet, cool, let's do that. So now when I look back on the day, I'm proud of what I've accomplished. I've worked hard, I've worked smart, I've maintained my kindness, and I've got a result. So too many of us are working really hard, treading water, and there's no result. So you got to picture, like, I'm all good for working hard, and picture my analogy from before, throwing in the ocean, just treading water, just maintaining. Now picture I'm swimming really fast towards that island. All of a sudden, now I've got a burst of energy. I have a result. I'm getting to that island in this amount of time. That's my focus. I can look at it. I know where I'm going to. This is the importance of setting and achieving monthly goals, where you can be like, that's where I want to get to by the end of the month. That's where I want to get to by the end of the 6 months. That's where I want to get to by the end of the year. And you can achieve far less in a year than what you think, and far more in 5 years than what you think. So too many of us box our goals into like 3 to 6 months. And this is maybe the reason we don't run a 12-week short course, is because the result you want is not going to happen in 3 months. The result you want is going to be a matter of 3 to 5 to 10 years of like that. Too many times we belittle the 5-year plan and just get into the 1-year plan. It's like, it's really interesting. I'm not telling you to have a 5-year plan or whatever, but don't underestimate what you can achieve in 5 years. And it's just crazy. So my whole emphasis is like, if you can manage yourself and get some time working on the business, you not only will you be a different person because you feel accomplished and you feel like you'll have more time. You'll be able to now spend that time where you want to spend it, between 6 and 10 o'clock at night time, because you had a productive day. And not only that, you're rolling into a productive tomorrow. And think about the accumulative effect of having 8 productive weeks in a row, or 8 productive months in a row, or 5 productive years of productive months, of productive weeks in a row. So don't underestimate the little differences you can make over time to absolutely nail it. Yeah.
Liked it. I liked it a lot. It was very, very good.